So hello ladies and gone for the fourth round of the TSR GT300 Championships. We are in Europe, we are in imaginary Italy at the Lago Maggiore, the Grand Prix layout, the full circuit. Here we're watching Mr. Halbstark, the German in the Lamborghini Huracan. And as I mentioned, we are in Europe for the first time this season, and a really interesting round. I think Maggiore really usually makes for some excellent racing and well balanced track that offers plenty of overtaking opportunities, and it has some similarities with Imola, I think. Wouldn't be completely wrong, I guess, also with the scenery and everything. Anyways, welcome to everyone who's joined us on already. Josse, Junaleska, Nilse, Ethan, of course. Such a warm welcome to all of you, and hope you will enjoy tonight's broadcast. The first three races of this series has been an absolute thrill to commentate upon. We've had action and drama all the way through. And by now, after three rounds, it is JoeOfTheFire in the Corvette C7 Group 3 car. He's leading the points table with 66 points in front of Sam Digby in second, who's packing 45 points by now. GT Welsh and VRS Stick in that combined car with 39 points. And then it's Dad, 24, and Shomar. They're in the Mercedes AMG GT3. They've got 32 points, Welsh and Stick. They are in the NSX Group 3 car, of course. Then it's CJ in the Renault RS01 with 27. It's T5 Black in 6th position with 20 points. It's Maarten with 19 in 7th. Then Dr. Hash with 15 in the McLaren 650S. He's in 8th position. 9th is Storm Pacer with 12 points. In 10th, it's the Sugar Rush Porsche of White Flight and Wake. In 11th, it's Halbstark. Then in 12th, it's Off Apple. And in 13th, it is Jimmy. Jimmy started out in the Huracan, now driven by Halbstark, and has made it switch to the Nissan GTR. So, news for today is, of course, that we have ERT Stevie in his debut race in this series, and he set the fastest lap so far already here in practice. Mind you that we will be getting along with the qualifying session in not too long. And the qualifying session is a special one indeed. Evening to all Alonatron as well. Good to have you along, mate. Nice to see you, and I do hope you are doing well. But as I mentioned, the qualifying format, just for anyone who hasn't seen any of the first three rounds, is a bit of a special one here. It's embedded within the race itself, meaning that when you see the race start on lap 1, this will actually be the qualifying start, and then first lap will be a warm-up lap. Lap 2 will be a flying lap, so counting flying lap on lap 2 for the drivers. Then they pit in on lap 3 for fresh tires and some fuel. Then lap 4 is an out lap. Lap 5 and lap 6 are both flying laps as well. Lap 7 will then be an in lap coming into the pits, where everybody puts in the desired fuel for the start of the race, and then the top 10 drivers cannot change tires. So the top 10 drivers are starting the race on the compound and the set of tires that they ended qualifying with, which is quite a nice tactical quirk in the series, if you will. And then, of course, the 8th lap is the formation and warm-up lap, with the first lap of racing being the 9th one indeed. Here is Maarten Fayehuizen in the Cam Hatch Reaver Racing Jag. Also looking to be on a nice pace. It's very, very close in between the top drivers at the moment. So, Stevie not on track at the moment, so Ethan, you were recording your friend screaming. That sounds interesting, to say the least. Well, anyway, I'm really looking forward to seeing Stevie in this series. He's in the Aston Martin. There he is in that Iris Esports liveried Aston Martin. Of course, Stevie, a very well-known face to us here at Have the Race Gone, being the Season 3 champion in the GT part of the Nukeshot Endurance Series. A very, very fast gentleman indeed. And a long-time karting driver since his junior days. So his racecraft doesn't come from nowhere. But he's just a 10th in front of JoeOfTheFire. Those two has had plenty of battles already. We've seen him go head-to-head on multiple occasions in the NES. Oh yeah, Ethan, I understand that. Packing a nice time so far also is that 24DH. It seems just half a second off the pace of Stevie Digby, whom we'd expect to be up there, I think, also today in the... excuse me, of course, in the Mustang. Not quite there on the pace yet. But of course, this being only practice, I wouldn't be surprised to see the lap times get turned on once we get into qualifying. And of course, it also it's worth mentioning that we'll be starting the qualifying on very low fuel indeed, just enough to make that first out lap and the first flying lap as well. And to anyone who's just joined us, we are just about getting ready for the qualifying session as usual. As usual, we are waiting on CJ, who also always arrives just in the last minute, it seems, but on time. He hasn't been late really yet, so it's not like we're here with raised fingers or anything. But well, I'm quite good today, Ethan. Thank you. Well, I've been off work. It's the winter vacation, so it's quiet at work this week, and it means I can have not only one but 2 days off, today and tomorrow. So that's absolutely lovely, and it's that's nice. So I'm feeling good. Thanks. Storm Pacer in the Ferrari 458, who for the first time this season got the wanted pace into his car last week. At least we don't have snow and ice at the moment, Ethan. It's actually quite mild. It's around 2-3 degrees and not too much wind these days, at least. So it's not a really hardcore winter, and it hasn't really been so far. And we're just keeping our fingers crossed that it won't be until spring comes. I work as a bike messenger for a relatively small bike messengering company. We've only got bikes. We deliver all our stuff on this Danish build locally. Actually, it's one of my bosses who designed the bike that we all use. It's kind of cool. join our Discord. I'll throw you plenty of pictures, and we can talk a lot about bikes, bicycles, and all that stuff. But now is not the time, guys. Anyways, to all of you new watchers, a warm welcome to the fourth round of the TSR GT300 Championships. I have a sense that I actually cut myself off with that sentence. It's what happens when you're a rampant talker, and what you have to do is talk rampantly. Then sometimes, what? There's stuff coming out, but does it all make sense? Well, I really hope so. And evening to Maarten as well. Good evening to you, mate. Nice to have you along, and best of luck for the race in the Jag. Oh, hey, Mikey! Welcome for the first time. What a pleasure to have you along. It's of course Mikey, who raced in the TSR Super GT Series in the GT500 class in the last season. Pacey Brit indeed, and welcome too. It's a pleasure having you along. I feel like we've been watching. A stick has taken a spin. It seems classical place there on the exit of turn 5. So easy to get that rear wheel on the grass. It seems like it's what happened to VRS stick. Here, as mentioned before, Maarten Vijfhuizen from the town of Vijfhuizen on the outskirts of Amsterdam, if I'm not completely mistaken. He's in the Cam Hatch Reaver racing car. Still, nobody managed. Oh, Stevie, look at that time he's been put in. He's put in a 54.9. That is quite, that is quite impressive indeed. Stevie showing that he has his pace about him, and I think everybody else is up for a challenge here. Historically, on the league races that I've been doing and commentating and all that stuff, who's been featuring Stevie here at Maggiore in the GTs, he has been very strong here all days. So it's no surprise to me to see this pace. I wouldn't be surprised to see him being able to pull off this pace for the race as well. And welcome to Unforgiven Racing. Thanks a lot. And you're with a team called GTRT. I guess it stands for something. What does it stand for? I'd like to know. It'll be hard for me to figure out on my own, I think, unless it's something very obvious that I haven't figured out yet. Oh yeah, Mikey, I remember you were quite unlucky with a couple of incidents on a couple of occasions, but I mean, I drove those GT500s myself the season before, the first season, and it was one of the most stressful periods of my life, having to deal with those cars. It was absolutely mad, and they are absolutely mad indeed. So I don't think the Gran Turismo racing team. Unforgiven. Perhaps I could have figured that out all in the own. Ethan, Jesus Christ. And Ethan, perhaps that should be our first Patreon goal, is to get you a PS4 so you can join us. So, and CJ is here, which also in turn means that we'll be close to the full grid. I actually think we will be full out now. One driver we haven't mentioned upon at all so far is, of course, off Apple in the Nuke Shot Motorsports BMW M6. The founder and organizer of the Nuke Shot Endurance Series. The supreme overlord Radish himself. All the other vegetables shall bow. And don't worry, guys, I know it's called vegetables. It's just a joke. Tier 5 spoon feed, Ethan. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're up for. Anyways, Dr. Hash, as I mentioned upon earlier, he is in the McLaren 650S. And a little side info on Dr. Hash is that he really doesn't like this track at all. And he isn't expecting too much, except for perhaps just trying to survive today. We'll see how it goes for the experienced German. And with that, qualifying is just about to get underway. Oh, and good evening to GT Alex himself. What a pleasure to have you along. GT Alex, of course, organizer of one of the organizers of the IGTL. Anyways, it would be tempting to be all aroused about the start now, but it is, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'll gladly go through it again. The start of the qualifying session, with the first lap here being the formation lap, out lap, not the formation lap, of course, but the warm-up lap for the first flying qualifying lap. And that'll be lap 2, of course. On lap 3, we'll see drivers entering the pits for fuel and tires. An out lap on lap 4. 2 more flying laps on lap 5 and 6. And then another in lap on lap 7. The drivers will be pitting for the desired fuel for the start of the race. And then the top 10 drivers will not be allowed to change their tires. And then, of course, lap 8 is the actual formation / warm-up lap, with lap 9 being the first lap of racing. It is indeed a little bit of a tricky format to get your head around, but once it's all there, it is an interesting one indeed. And it, of course, also means that the actual racing distance tonight is 30 laps around the Grand Prix layout here at Maggiore. And it is indeed a way to create a little bit more tactical diversity in these races. Usually what we see in GT Sport is that all drivers are forced to start. Well, you can put in so that everybody starts on, say, 60% fuel, 75 or 40 or whatever. But in turn, this is the only way I've seen so far that actually enable drivers to, except for the IGTL, but they do this kind of same kind of, a little bit same kind of thing, but that's only for the second stint start in these double stint endurance races. That's also an interesting format indeed, but let's take that on another day, because that's a whole other story. But it is indeed interesting. First off, for his first flying lap is, of course, ERT Stevie from the Iris Racing team, the esports team it is now. And we do have great expectations from from Stevie. I don't know if we have great expectations coming from Stevie towards us. We might have, I don't know, but we've got great expectations indeed. Halbsterk also up there, one of the early qualifiers in the Lambo. Showed last week that he certainly has the pace, but that Huracan is more than a handful to drive. I believe that last week he might actually have been driving it without any kind of tune, with just the stock setup, which certainly would have been impressive indeed. Let's go on board with the German here as he comes down the back straight. And down towards this banked hairpin right. hairpin, but it's a tight, banked right-hander. We like to call it the spaghetti barrel here. I know it has many names in other communities. The big banky boy. The big dip. Could also just go for the big dip. The stock Huracan is like... it's like it has no wheels and it's driving on something else that isn't wheels. I suppose it gets a little better once you're able to actually set it up, but it is it is a car that really requires a talented driver. In turn, it does reward you with one of the highest top speeds of the game whatsoever. So it's not all bad. Storm Pacer. Oh, and Stevie has upped his game, and he's on a... Oh, Ethan is Oh, good evening, Can't Shake the Cliche. And Bambi as well. Good evening to you guys. And Snappy D, who's that gentleman racing? I think it is. Any room in the lobby? I am a little afraid not, perhaps. I actually don't know. No, I'm afraid not with me and Stick. I'll have to hear. But anyways, even evening to you gentlemen, we are underways with what is effectively the qualifying session. And what the drivers are on right now is an in-lap, so we'll be having a chance to look at the timing table for those first flying laps. As we see ERT Stevie pitting in, he is on the best lap so far with a 53.8. Impressive stuff indeed. And as you see, nobody really getting close to that whatsoever. JoeOfTheFire with a 54.2 closest, but he's 4/10 off the pace of Stevie on that first lap. Of course, Sam Digby, CJ not too far off. So strong stuff from Stevie, and I'm glad that he's delivering now that I've been talking him up here during the pre-race. And thank you, Can't Shake the Cliche. Can't shake. Can I have to think of some way to shorten that. CFTC. I don't know, man. I'm gonna figure something out. But thanks anyways. I do appreciate it. Steven on that outlap. Everybody's on that outlap. Everybody's on that outlap. That outlap. Everybody's on the outlap. I might have a career doing race commentary. I might also have a career doing songs about weird race situations, but I doubt it. Cliche, yeah, cliche, of course. Could have figured that myself as well. Stevie, is he just trying to burn some fuel here? Anyways, of course, I'll be following both JoeOfTheFire and CJ as well with interest on this round. Sam Digby as well, of course, who's qualified strongly in the in the opening rounds. And thank you, Understeer. Can't stake the cliche. Well, Mikey, I think I might have a plastic ball, and I do sit right by a wooden table, so we can put it to the test. That's a bit heavy. You see, of course, we have Stella, the half-the-race dog here, and I don't actually have any of her plastic toy balls, but she has one that is sturdy, light, and that would, I think, make a close BMW M6 popping noise. And I'll take it into consideration. Hold me up upon it, and I'll deliver to you next time we're on the air. I will find the plastic ball and deliver. Of course I am, Alex. You just say the word. I'll gladly make you a jingle. It would be so much fun. Anyway, we have the drivers on flying laps now. Or shouldn't we at least 5 and 6? Indeed it is. So Stevie, let's follow him around this time around. Go on board with the Brit. In the words of Iris himself, what he lacks in height, he makes up for in speed. So, judging by the pace he's put in this qualifying session so far, it's not entirely wrong. And look at those lines. That is executed to maximum precision. Once more perfect. Just missing the apex by a centimeter or two. But a pleb like me shouldn't be that critical of the drivers. As he rounds the final corner, that is such a difficult one to get right. You can really carry the speed. Let's see what he gets here. Oh, that's a brilliant lap from Stevie. That's a 1:53.7, and it certainly looks like a pole position for him. CJ, what's it gonna be? That's a 54. Here comes Dr. Hash. And he's gonna be somewhat down the order for this lap. JoeOfTheFire, that looks a little bit better for the witty professor. It certainly is, as he places almost 4/10 better than his previous lap. Storm Pacer's down on his personal best. Maarten is a long way down on his personal best. T5 Black, I don't think he's gonna improve. I actually have a very hard time imagining it. He's not. What about that 24? In the AMG Merc, he improves by a 10th, but still in the 55s, I think. Then next up is off Apple, then it's Digby and VRS Dick, and Digby, we will be following you, Apple, and that lap will put him some way down the order. Still the best lap so far for him. Sam Digby, that is not an improvement of his personal best so far, and same goes for VRS Dick. So still no real challenge to the pole position of VRT Stevie. Hashtag real burp, but I was silent this time around, Ethan. Well, evening Sky. Good to see you. And yeah, Stevie, CJ, certainly not bad bets at all. I wouldn't discount, or I wouldn't, what do you say even? I wouldn't disregard JoeOfTheFire one bit though. He's been on top for the last 2 races, and the witty professor, as we call him here, very consistent gentleman indeed. CJ has been having a little bit of trouble with the... The C4 Plus model. Yeah, I'm sorry, but CJ has been having a little bit of trouble with the Renault RS01. So it'll be interesting to see how he ends up in qualifying. Let's have a look at the final timing order. Do we have everybody across the line? We actually don't. So let's just go and have a look. Stick is still coming up to the line. Digby is more importantly, and he might be onto something this lap. Number 2 in the championship standings after 3 rounds of racing, Sam Digby. What's it gonna be for him? It's not gonna be an improvement. Oh, and on, what does that mean? Mustang, brave indeed, brave indeed. And especially since we don't really have any super high-speed tracks on the calendar. Fuji was perhaps one, but Fuji isn't such a pure high-speed track. And even though Fuji favors a car with a high top speed, it also very much demands a lot of the technical abilities of both car and driver. And we've seen him handle the Mustang well. Now let's have a look at the timing board. And so what's really a shame here is that that they don't get lined up after fastest laps. It would be nice to be able to sort these times out. But anyways, of course, Stevie on pole position with that 53.7. What a strong lap indeed. JoeOfTheFire, though, getting quite close. So as I mentioned, don't disregard him whatsoever. CJ 54.9, that's a little bit of way back, and do seem to me that he's still having his trouble with the car. Sam Digby also a 54.9, and the Mustang is a difficult car. He's having his difficulties. I think a lot of the field is having their difficulties today. Many of the drivers in around the 55s, indeed. And that's actually exactly what I mean about Fuji. Many seem to consider it a high-speed track, but it is much more balanced. Yeah, we've never seen anyone have trouble with that Renault before. It just handles like a dream. It's perfect. It never slides. Apple's out of fuel. Oh, that's gonna... Well, he'll be able to catch up. He's getting pushed along by VRS Stick. This is a very comical moment indeed. As off Apple, who's run a one race organizer, pushing the other, of course, VRS Stick being the organizer alongside GT Welsh of this series. Here, Apple getting pushed into the pit lane to put in his start of the race fuel. Touching a helping hand indeed. That was really good to see. So once we get the cars out, we'll see him waiting and forming up. Joe knows this procedure, of course. I think Stevie will be a little surprised to see that it can take some time for the grip to form up behind him, but he'll of course have the advantage of the rest of the grid actually having to hurry up in behind him and actually maybe spend a little bit more fuel than him. Yeah, I think that Renault RSO1, I don't know, when I saw it first time around, I thought, that looks to be a pretty good car. I mean, it's mid-engine, it's low center of gravity, it's aerodynamic, and but it's it's not. It's just, yeah. Now Stevie forming up down here at turn 5, right in front, and now they will be slowing to allow the grid to form in behind. So it is CJ in third, actually, with Digby fourth, but there's a big gap from Stevie and JoeOfTheFire to the next couple of contenders in qualifying. Then it's, of course, with that 24 in fifth. Does he have grid penalty from before? I'm a little bit surprised. Well, no, I've never looked at the power curve of the the RS, and it does have that brow. Look at the brow. It looks like a cartoon character that's had a bottle of a bucket of water thrown into its head. Look at it. This is the perfect view. The big brow there between its eyes. It's got big bucket of water thrown into its head, and now it's not satisfied with the situation. I'm a Renault and I'm not happy. It's like that mini they did on Top Gear with Richard Hammond doing a sad face. It's the same thing. It has the... It's not sad, but it's just dissatisfied. Oh, God. So with the grid parked up here, this should allow everyone to get properly underway. A little bit of chat going on. I think there was a bit of confusion here pre-race. I think this amounts to be the longest. I was about to say that, but that is absolutely untrue. Evening to Storm Pacer. Good luck for the race. Good luck with the Fessa, and all the best. Anyways, I was saying I was about to call it the longest warm-up lap in the history of Half the Race Gone, but that is... we did 10 minutes of a warm-up lap for the GTs at La Sarthe, and that is what a warm-up lap at La Sarthe takes at 80 kilometers an hour. 10 minutes. So you know, now you know, the more you know. And with that said, we have the entire field rolling on. Pole position, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned before, it is ERT Stevie in front of the witty professor defending his championship lead. It's the mad Greek that is CJ. Crazy John is here in third position in front of the brave Mustang of Sam Digby. Then it's Dad 24 sharing his car with Shoma. Just for the info, they're doing well in the championship standings as well, and qualified pretty well in fifth in front of Halsterk in the Twitchy Lambo. It's Maarten in the Cam Hatch Jag in front of the Swedish survivor T5 Black in 8th position. In 9th, it's Storm Pacer in front of Off Apple, who's in 10th position, in front of VRS Dick, and Dr. Hash down in 12th and last. So what Dr. Hash had mentioned about not really liking this track, well, it hasn't really turned out to be an understatement whatsoever. Yeah, the formation lap at the Nordschleife, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it one bit. Now top drivers are beginning to form up. And now one thing we've seen a lot of weaving, and that's of course to keep the heat in the tires. But I don't know, it's just some stupid... I was just... it goes all the way back to the TSR M3 series, where he had a lot of offs and he had quite a number of incredible comebacks. And so the Swedish survivor was born, and it's green, and that means it's go time for ERT Stevie. He's got JoeOfTheFire for company down towards turn 1. And they're side by side. Joe actually might have the lineup on him. No touch so far, and it seems everybody's gotten cleanly away in the top. Oh, Sam Digby getting twitchy, and Halsterk is right through, and that's that 24 as well. Digby now down into 6th position with Maarten in 7th, T5 in 8th. Further up, now CJ having overtaken JoeOfTheFire up into 2nd position. Brilliant stuff, and brilliant start from the Greek as well. Putting on the pressure into turn 5. JoeOfTheFire tagging right along there still. Oh, CJ really having found some speed in that Renault. And makes you wonder if he's been sandbagging all along for qualifying. Because he certainly seems to have found speed on another level. But you do see that he's having to give it absolutely maximum input to be able to turn I'm afraid it's hard on the tires indeed. Let's just have a replay of the start. Oh, that's quite a bit of weight from the start. The drivers forming up. And let's go on board with Digby. Will give us a pretty good view of what happened as they have just gone green. Side by side into turn 1 there. A little bit of a nudge from CJ, so that's what's caused Digby to lose out. Of course, real intentional stuff there, I suppose. Bad stuff from bad start for Digby whatsoever. And he's now up into 5th position, so he's gotten the better of... and CJ now in front of Stevie and into the race lead. But Stevie's certainly not content with this situation. He's gonna go for it down into turn 1. The Mad Greek has taken the lead. Starting 3rd, this is impressive stuff from CJ. Impressive stuff indeed. And still a really close top 4 here as Stevie gets very close to the Renault on the braking. And indeed, Sky, it's one of each car in this series with Stevie now up the inside. Oh, they're gonna go side by side down to turn 5. This is one of the opportunities for overtaking, but it is in turn also the opportunity where you can go and get early on the throttle with the outside line and hold on. And also in turn have the inside line for the SS here as CJ does. Holds on to 1st position. JoeOfTheFire seems to be biding his time, but I think he's giving an absolute full pressure right now just to be keeping up. And there's a slight gap down to Halbstack now opening up. Same goes down to DAD24. Digby back into 6th position. It's Maarten in 7th. It's DAD24-8 and as Stevie goes for it up the inside of CJ into the spaghetti ball. Let's see once more. Oh, there's a slide from the Greek. Brilliant stuff here. On board with CJ indeed. And what we do have is Stevie on the inside here. We see that little bit of a squirm, a little bit of a nudge, but no damage taken whatsoever. And Stevie now back into the lead. So more action than we can keep up with at the moment at the top of affairs. And now it's JoeOfTheFire getting the run upon the Renault as they come into turn 1. Will he be able to make a move stick? Oh, a little bit of a nudge there. Strong defending from CJ on the outside. And in turn it almost opens the door for Halbstack in behind. See here, it's DAD24. He's down in 5th position, but he's just 2 seconds down on the race leader, so by no means really detached. And with all that fighting going on, you can really not discount any of these boys who are just positioned, followed by Maarten. And then there's a big gap down to VRS Stick in 8th. Then it's T5, Dr. Hash, Apple, and or is it? It is. It is indeed. And then it's last position is Stormpacer. Oh, Stormpacer doesn't look to have had the best of starts. Let's go back with that lead battle. Oh, Stevie's just run away and he's 2 seconds in the lead. And now JoeOfTheFire seems to have the run on CJ that he most certainly does. And I think Halbstack, that's a really opportunistic one. As they come into the spaghetti bowl, they'll be side by side for the drag race up towards the backside S's here. Over the crest. Still looks to favor Halbstack. Oh, we have a disconnect from Stormpacer. Oh, Halbstack gets twitchy in that match. Favors CJ now indeed. Brilliant stuff here. And it's too close to call, but oh, was that a nudge? Was that a little bit of argy-bargy there? Oh, something I promised to never do. And I'll stop myself right in the trails. Look at that, 24. Getting opportunistic on the inside. Halbstack just forces CJ wide. Oh, that's not what we want to see. Things getting a little bit heated between the two here. Let's see that battle coming into that section because it was some very, very, very close stuff indeed. CJ there, I think there was a little bit of touch. A little bit of that argy-bargying. Halbstack already there just shutting the door. That's a Rosberg squeeze if ever I've seen one. Puts CJ into the grass. That 24 says thank you very much. And he's up into third now. Evening to Jamal as well. That was a huge drift we saw there before. What great racing already. Seriously close stuff. That 24, brilliant start up into third position now. Running really strongly. And what we are seeing also now is that ERT Stevie and JoeOfTheFire is really making a break for it. They're getting that clean air to break away, and it seems to be working out really well for both of them. Just around 2.2 seconds is the gap from Stevie down to Joe. And then in the turn, 2.5 seconds more down to that 24. Oh, now CJ getting in front of Halbstag here. Let's see what happened. Was coming into the spaghetti barrel, and it seems like Halbstag was just getting a bad exit. CJ in turn was flying, and he got right past there. Evening to Nilse as well. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah. I think we could have called this one out, that the two such twitchy cars battling out. By no means could it ever go well, at least when they're going at it. When going at it like that. We're on board with the German Halbstag. Look at how much input he's putting into the Renault to make it go around the corners. It seems to work though for the Mad Greek, that is Crazy John. Though somewhat missing the apex. It goes a little bit wide, but seems to be able to carry the speed. Look at the grunt in the straight line though for the Lambo. Every time they just go near that top speed zone, Halbstag is gaining, and he's having to struggle with the car through the corners. And just in front of these two combatants, it's that 24 also just beginning to run away with it in the AMG GT. And we've seen several drivers do some impressive stuff with tire wear on this car. So might be able to see that 24 pulling off a long stint on the mediums today. Of course it means, and there is to be said, that the drivers have to use both compounds of tires available to them, and that is of course the mediums and the hards. That 24, 3 seconds down on JoeOfTheFire, 6.5 seconds down almost on race leader ERT Stevie, who at the moment is running away with it, it seems. He's got the gap. And I know he loves to be left out in front like this, and he's certainly not a gentleman you want to do it. JoeOfTheFire is doing every possible thing he can to keep a leash on his compatriot, but I think it is in for a tough job today. The witty professor, of course, will see how it goes on strategy. Now in behind, that 24 is opening a gap down to Halbstag and CJ, who still in turn seems to be going at it because Halbstag has gotten in front of CJ now. And did CJ make some kind of mistake into turn one here? He might have. No, we didn't get to catch it anyways. So, Digby in 6th in the Brave Mustang. It's Maarten still following close behind, just about a second down on 6th position. It's VRS Dig up into 8th, but as before, there's a 7.4 second gap between Maarten and himself. It's Dr. Hash now up into 9th position. It's Apple in 10th. It's T5 Black down in 11th. So certainly not what he'd been wanting as well. And he's on an outlap, so it looks like an early pit stop for T5 indeed. And of course he does have the comfort of clean and clear track space to make up some of the deficit now. But he's 43 seconds down on race leader ERT Stevie. Let's go back with that. 24 in third position. Having lost a little bit of ground down to Halbsterk, CJ in 5th, Digby in 6th, it's Maarten 7th, and it's of course still VRS Dick in 8th. Halbsterk also now doing a pretty good job of running away from CJ. At least that's what he did. Oh, CJ getting a little wide there, and that's going to cost him. Especially since he's not going to be able to get the optimal line, and that's going to affect him through the entire sector, basically. And he did seem to get... No, he did not get the exit from that corner, and he is getting outside of the slipstream of the Lambo now, and that's going to hurt him indeed. But, good call from Sky. Is it Pigma? I think it's Pigma if it's correctly pronounced. I hope so anyways, but good call from your mate earlier. It's on Stevie when I said we shouldn't discount JoeOfTheFire. Turns out that I was right as well. He is strongly in second position and the only one who seems to really be able to contend to the pace of the Aries Esports driver in front. Joe Pigman. Is it just Pigman? It's just because if there's any Danes watching, I'm not sure there is, but in Danish it means, well, you wouldn't say it that way around, but if you turn the word around and say min pig, Pigman. Well, the other way around, min pig in Danish, it means my dick, or in French, ma bite. So I can't. I'm sorry, it's good, but I just whenever it means my dick exactly. So, oh yeah, good times, boys. Good times. Oh yeah, of course. Of course it is. I'll just keep on saying Sky. I think that'll be a lot easier for all of us. Well, let's watch the development in the race. Because CJ's lost some time. But in the meantime, Halbsterk is actually gaining on that 24 at the moment. Oh, and as we just try to catch up with that, Halbsterk has a huge moment in the Lambo and a brilliant catch. Let's go on board through the S's, gets too much curb underneath the car and goes massively sideways there. That's a very, very nice catch indeed. And manages to hold it, only just losing, well, he loses just around 1.5 seconds or so. So strong stuff there from Halbsterk. I was about to say closing the gap, and a brilliant save. That just shows what kind of driver you have to be able to deal with that Lambo. It's a man-eater. Digby in 6th, still accompanied quite closely by Maarten. They seem to be well-paced to one another for today. Det var første gang, han startede. Yeah, let's see, Mikey, if I can totally trash talk someone into doing really well. Who shall we pick as our victim? There can be only one the Radish Supreme Overlord. He's doing... I don't want to say that because he's not. He's in 10th position. I can't say that sitting here saying... He's doing absolutely... That's the rule number 1 of motorsports commentating. Unless you're James Hunt, and... Which I most certainly am not. Unless you're James Hunt, you don't get to sit there and say bad stuff about the drivers. If you have to say anything critical, you formulate that in a positive, diplomatic... you know, way. So we got Ethan in Danish in chat, and I tried to read it without laughing. I just gave up. It was too fun. Anyways, Dr. Hash not up into 9th. He's got the company of Off Apple right in behind. But, oh, late braking there from Mr. Apple indeed. Almost sent it right off the rear bumper of Mr. Hash. I was about to call him Dr. Hash. A good job on Apple on missing out on that. Worth noticing that T5 Black has made up 6 seconds onto Apple after his pit stop. Strong stuff from him indeed. And that 24 has really consolidated on his lead. He's now in front of Halbstad by around 3 seconds. The most professional commentary group on GTPlanet. Well, that says a lot, doesn't it? But I'm glad you think so, Bambi. We're trying to keep it, should we say, balanced between professionalism. I say that in, you know, like professionalism, but also we should have fun, right? I'm trying to have fun. You're all trying to have fun. Well, you want fun. I want fun. We want fun. When do I know? I don't know. I wasn't even... Maybe I should have considered something before beginning singing something. Anyways, that 24 and 3rd, he's doing well. Halbstad has also broken the gap down to CJ at the moment. So everything is getting spaced out, it seems, within the top 6, 7. Yeah, hash potatoes. Ethan, stop that stuff. And Alex, what do you mean Mr. Bentley? Which is of course McLaren, the Lazarus driver. Isn't Lazarus who he races for now? I think it is. Anyways, is it by his hair you... Was it judging by his hair? And Alex, also you mentioned that my French basics were pretty good. I have a big advantage in that since I have a good friend that's half Danish, half French. He grew up in Paris. He lived there for 10, 12 years before moving here as a young kid. And I've known him for many years now, so of course that has given me somewhat of an advantage. I do know my French basics, although I'm not gonna get into too much baguette stuff by fear of sounding stupid. Hvor mange æbler vokser på et træ? Ikke nogen nu. There will be... Let's see, we'll try to go on board. Can we hear the foul Greek... the foul Greek sentences being spewed from the cabin of the Renault at the moment? Try getting closer. Can you hear it? No, it's totally deafened by the sound of the transmission. But I'm also totally sure that CJ is absolutely swearing within that car at the moment. Where's Shoma? Well, Shoma, in this series, he's of course sharing this car with Dad 24. And that's, of course, one of the reasons he's not on track tonight. Where he is in chat? I don't know. Big disappointment that he's not here. Big disappointment indeed. So we are seeing that bit of spread in the peloton. I was about to say that was a good cycling term. In the field indeed. And especially here at the top of affairs. A bit further on, Dr. Hash is making his comeback. He's going up through the ranks. He's now up into 8th position, having gotten the better of VRS Stick. Though I would imagine VRS Stick to be on, perhaps upon the hard tires. Oh. Well done there, Dirten. Good stuff. Precision clicking indeed. And now we never got to check out what we were actually after. What we're seeing that he is on the mediums for a start here today. Dr. Hash now in the pits, and he is in for his first pit stop. And he's probably, not saying too much, but I would be very surprised if he weren't on the mediums and with enough fuel to basically finish the race, more or less. He's out again. Maarten has also had his first stop, or so I suppose, because he's quite a bit away back. And evening to the bandito himself, that is Robert Smith. Good evening, mate, and it's nice to see you. And there is a big dip. There is the big dip of circuit racing here upon Maggiore. ERT Stevie now up with a lead of 9 seconds to JoeOfTheFire. Really looking strong. JoeOfTheFire, in turn, he is getting isolated because he's 6.7 seconds clear of that 24 DH in third in that AMG GT. Halbsterk still in fourth in the Lambo, doing a brilliant job of keeping it all in order. It's CJ fifth, it's Digby in sixth position. And Halbsterk and CJ still not out of contention. Still pretty close there. It's Apple now up into seventh position. So looking pretty good here. ERT Lance Armstrong. That is certainly 9 seconds lead drug test. It's what we're seeing from Stevie is that classic high cadence Lance stuff. Yeah, I was about to, how do you describe Lance? But he looked good on the bike though. Anyways, that's cycling, and Stevie is genuinely, well, I'd say I wasn't surprised to see him getting signed by the Aries team, the esports team that sprung out of the community around the Aries YouTube channel. And it's, to be honest, I think it's some brilliant stuff they do on the channel, or that Rory himself does on the channel. And I think it's a really interesting approach to take to it, to found a team to compete in different events and to see how far you can get with that side of things as well. As we've mentioned before here, really best of luck to the guys at the ERT Esports. Still watching off Apple. Building on the gap down to VRS Stick at the moment. Up in front, it's still Sam Digby in sixth position. Somewhat on an island as well. 20 seconds clear of Apple, but almost 10 seconds down on CJ as well. Halbsterk in the Lambo. Well, he's holding off CJ. CJ just about a second behind. I think both of these drivers are absolutely suffering with the car, and it's only going to get worse because having started on the mediums, grip is going to degrade until they have to pit in, and chances are they'll have to go onto the hard tire when they come out again, and that is certainly going to be a difficult one. We've had a lot of talk about CJ in that Renault RS01. Here we are on board with the Mad Greek himself. gets a little wide through the final bit of the S's there, CJ, but it's managed to claw back some time. But look, once they get onto the back straight, there goes a 10th, there goes 2/10, and he's pretty much outside the slipstream, and there isn't really much he can do about it anyways. That 24 also still looking quite strong, actually. But he's also been exiled more or less on an island between these two and JoeOfTheFire in second. Set 4 intervention is real. But in turn, CJ now getting closer to Halbsteg. It will be interesting to see. Oh, now Halbsteg seeming to be in big trouble. Big trouble indeed. As we go on board with the rearwards facing cam. Having thrown away an entire second of lead. As CJ getting very wide on the exit of turn 4 as well. And then the difficult V-shaped corner, more or less, that is turn 5. That's a difficult opening exit, and then there's another kink to the right. Halbsteg still defending with CJ right on the tail. Then back to the car up the Mad Greek. Oh, gets a big slide on. And once more getting into the dead air right in behind the car of Halbsteg. The M16 in 2024. Nice one, Trials. It's of course, whenever you see us in chat, it's the smooth boy himself taking care of that side of things for us. CJ once more getting quite close on his way into the final sector. This double right-hander, and then to the left, and then turn them down to the final corner. JoeOfTheFire now pitting in, and that's somewhat early for the witty professor, I'd suppose. Let's see, is he going for more than a one-stopper today? Nope, he is not. He's on the hards. He is on the hard tires, and he's coming out right in front of Halbsteg. Oh! And what's this gonna mean for CJ? Oh, little nudge there. Is Joe gonna be able to break away from these two, or is he gonna be sucked into the squabbling for what is now third position? Certainly it's close now between these three, as we have Digby also pitting in on the hards. He's exiting the pits on the mediums, so Digby running the reverse strategy today. It'll be interesting to see how far he can get with that. And one thing I have to mention about Stevie, and the thing that talks to his advantage or in his favor here, is that might have to do with his karting experience, but he's certainly a master of tire wear. And he's always that guy to go about on a blistering pace while still being gentle and soft on the tires, making him last as far as, I was about to say humanly, is almost superhumanly possible. And it's some strong stuff indeed for the race leader. See that last lap of his, the 55.2. That is better than the qualifying pace of most of the field. Anyways, he is in for his first stop now. But expect him to get out of pits in front of that 24. Let's see. Let's see. Here he comes. So fuel in for Stevie, and that 24 is out, but he's actually pretty close. And that 24 is really managing to hammer in the consistency. for now, though his last lap was a 57.1, so he might have lost a little bit of pace. Although, to be fair, I think he's not been able to keep up with Stevie from the beginning of it, and he's, of course, not been into the pits yet. So JoeOfTheFire effectively, let's say virtually still second, of course. He's third on the road at the moment. Now CJ having gotten past Halbstag. So one thing we've missed. JoeOfTheFire seems to have broken away. You have to applaud these two drivers for staying so long on the mediums. Unless they are on the hard compound. I certainly would be very surprised to see that. Both CJ and Halbstag is indeed on the mediums still. Worn mediums by now. And yeah, the reason that Trout and I was about to say don't get together more often. To be fair, we do see each other quite often in real life. But of course, it's difficult making everything fit calendar-wise and making the space and time in both our lives to take out 3 days or 2 days a week to do this in this way. But doing our best to get the smooth boy along as often as possible. Now it's the pit stop time for Dad24, for Halbstag, and for CJ as well. Of course, a little bit surprised to see the amount of fuel left. I mean, there's some kind of bug. Dad24 out on the hard compound. Same goes for Halbstag. Same goes for CJ as well, of course. So would expect it to be the final stop for these guys. 14 laps of racing remaining. Evening to Gugas as well. Good to see you. So CJ having lost 2.5 seconds on that pit stop round indeed. Not at all brilliant, not at all what he wanted. But could be that once the Renault gets on hot tires, it just loses a little bit of pace. Let's see how the German is doing in the Lambo. Oh, he's just 2 seconds behind Dad24. So the battle for third position might be opening up by now. And he's just gained a good bunch of time through the spaghetti ball. Halbstag. And do tune in for that AOR race we're doing tomorrow, GT3s. At Monza, about an hour's worth of race, and we'll be starting in the rain, and then at some point the rain will stop, and then the track will dry, and we'll have to manage all that. I think it's gonna be interesting to say the least. Halbstag now losing a little bit of time to Dad24, gaining on CJ. How is Digby doing? It's worth taking a look into, because he is, of course, on the mediums by now. He should, in turn, be gaining on CJ at the moment. Stick is up into 7th position. He's 6 seconds down on Digby. He's got the company of T5 Black, who's made a strong return from his... might have had an incident. I think he did have an incident, and then an early pit stop as well to go for him. Down in 9th, it's Dr. Hash. He is a little bit on an island at the moment. 4 seconds down to Apple, and Maarten down in 11th position. So certainly not what we've seen over the opening couple of rounds from Maarten. It's going bad for the Jag. And I don't know what happened to him. Certainly missed it. JoeOfTheFire, 16 seconds. Oh, Halbstag and that 24 going at it for third position, and it looks like a move around the outside through the S's. Let's just have a look. It's just a battle on the exit. Goes around there and just manages to keep that Lambo. Brilliant stuff. Let's go right back to it, because that 24 in turn has gotten right back through. And this is what we get for showing you replays. The action goes on. A little bit of a touch from Mr. 24. DH, they're side by side for second after second. Halbstag once more getting pushed towards the inside of that penultimate left-hander. And in turn, that 24 retakes third position. And now CJ up into third. So what on earth just went down up into turn one? It was Halbstag. Oh, big deal of contact between the two. And that 24 gets it all wrong. Or gets it all wrong, that's perhaps a strong way to put it. He was pushed out there. He got onto the grass. He had nowhere to go. He got his nose pointing towards Halbstag, and they made contact. Oh, what poor luck for those two. Replays on replays on replays. All of a sudden we have all this action going down, and it's playing into the hands of the Mad Greek once more, who not for the first time this season has been gifted third position by, well, pretty much excuse me, that 24, of course, who absolutely binned it on the final lap at the second round at Kyoto, thereby giving third position to CJ. CJ now being a slidey boy there indeed. Halbstag not looking to have the worst of damages. He hasn't lost that much time. Let's see. Oh yes, right suspension and front aero damage. And what about that 24? I'm afraid it is quite a lot worse for him. It's suspension, aero, and engine damage. And you see him falling right down through the field now. Bad luck for that 24 DH. And now it's Halbstag also pitting in for that damage. Oh, poor luck for both these, but they will have the advantage of the medium compound when they come out. Although there isn't really much consolidation in the end, I believe. Halbstag out into 7th position, so it's not completely disastrous. That 24, let's see where he makes it out. Fuel going onto the car. A bit surprised to see that. And of course, mediums as well. Or was it even fuel? Anyway, it's that 24 out in 9th position. He's pretty much right on the tail of Dr. Hash, indeed. Feeling wheel. We feel wheel a lot of the time. I think feeling wheel is just, you know, when you get force feedback through the wheel, isn't that what feeling wheel? That's pretty direct. Anyway, Stevie, let's just check in with the race leader. Something that seems to happen, and of course it also happens in real life motorsports transmission as well. And when somebody just hammers along in front, and they're just pretty much on rails, like, it's getting a little twitchy out there, but he's commanding lead by 19 seconds down to JoeOfTheFire. And it would have been fun to see Choma along here today, because that lead is no bigger, or it's actually Choma's lead last time around was actually, I think, smaller than what Stevie is pulling off here. So That's some impressive stuff. And a 20-second gap on both sides of JoeOfTheFire at the moment. Then CJ having been gifted that third position, but now Sam Digby is going close. And Digby, who has been the big under the radar for today, he's now caught up to third position pretty much. And mind you that he has the advantage of the medium compounds against CJ, who is on the hard tires. So unless the tires of that brave Mustang die completely here on those these 9 laps of racing, I think it will very much be possible for Sam Digby to claim that third position. And that will be brilliant stuff from having started and gotten a bad start. He actually started in 4th, but he got a poor start, just getting pushed out on the grass and losing out 3-4 positions just in the first couple of corners. Yeah, Ethan, that meme, trust me. I also thought about CJ, the East Coast made you soft, homie. I think you could do all that kind of... Anybody who's good at video editing, hit me up with those CJ San Andreas memes. We'll have a blast. Also, really worth noting is the battle now between VRS Stick and T5 Black. Just saw that. Oh, those two good mates are getting really squeezing each other down through the S's. It's VRS Stick holding on the outside in front of the Swede, who's now in P6. So the meme around T5 shall not be fulfilled, at least not yet. He is in P6, not in P5. Still VRS Stick holding out right in front. Of course, also taking advantage of the bad luck of others. Two touchy boys getting hot indeed. Let's go on board with T5 Black. Look at Halbstag is coming up on fresh mediums right behind. So Halbstag could still be aiming for a top 5 spot, even after that incident with Dad 24 early on. I think Dad 24 lost much more time with the engine damage that he got. Halbstag was lucky in that sense that he only received aero and suspension damage to the front. Now let's go on board with VRS Stick and his rearward facing camera. It'll give us the perfect view of what's going on right behind here. This battle, this trio of cars is right around 13 seconds behind CJ, who's now in 4th position. And we'll just have to go check out that, because that means that, oh, he's just gotten the better of him. Nope. It's been a couple of seconds ago anyway. Sam Digby, the prophecy that I made has for once come true, and Sam Digby's up into 3rd position. Now trying to break a gap down to CJ. Oh, and it's getting really close in behind for VRS Stick. Trying to fend off now Halbstag up into 6th position. Really flying on that fresh rubber in the Lambo. Up on the inside of VRS Stick. I don't think the Brit will have much of a chance here. He tries for the cutback. Mind you, he's on the hard compounds, of course. It's a difficult one, and just cannot match the cornering speed of the Lambo. He's back to defending from the Swedish survivor. He's down into 7th now, being overtaken by Halbstag, but that goes for both of these. It happened within a lap. It went surprisingly fast. Oh, and it's T5 up the inside. But doesn't manage to make that stick, so it's a great defensive move from the sticky boy himself. So just look at VRS Stick aiming for the exit and getting it, and really making life hard for T5 Black indeed. Getting closer and closer to the final bits of the race indeed. 7 laps of racing to go. So So yeah, that 24 down in 8th now. He's gotten past Dr. Hash, but he's got a big gap in front to close. And I don't think it'll be possible, even though he's on fresh mediums and all that. Of course, with heavy fighting in front, it's not beyond anyone closing a gap of 16 seconds in 7 laps, but it would require a close to otherworldly performance to get back in that contention there. Off Apple, 10th position. Now getting caught slowly but surely, it seems, by Maarten, who's making a return from whatever bad luck he suffered earlier today. Running in last position at the moment. And indeed, Mikey, true, the Lexus does fly in a straight line. It does pack an insane punch. Though it is a bit of a battleship in the corners. Heavy at the front. Back on board with T5 Black as they make their way down towards turn 1. Still VRS Stick by no means making it easy. Oh, he does open up a little bit of a gap. T5, look at that. Ever the opportunist. He just tries to send it. And Stick firmly shutting the door, telling you that there'll be no way you'll be passing me around here up the inside there. It's not gonna happen. Once more, we see Stick getting the exit on the Swede. That 24's gained a second, and Stevie is now up by almost half a minute. And it must be pretty discouraging for the opposition to see. I think that 24 will be calling up Shamar, saying, hey, can you do a couple of races for the next couple of weeks? We need somebody to challenge this flying Brit, who has been in a class of his own so far today. And usually that's what we say about JoeOfTheFire. Digby 20 seconds down in 3rd position, 20 seconds down on JoeOfTheFire. He's 48 seconds down on VRS Dick. CJ in 4th. He's gotten rid of Halbstag for good, I think. He's now 10 seconds down. And Halbstag, of course, haven't broken away from VRS Dick and T5 Black in behind. That 24 looking for that return. Now he's closing that gap. And it was 16 seconds on the line before, and it's gonna be 14 seconds on the line this time, so it might just be... It wouldn't require many mistakes from Stick and T5 to allow that 24 to actually get back into it. If he can keep his cool, if he can pump in those optimum lap times, those last 5 laps here, he might just still be able... But it will be an otherworldly return. Of course, he's not in for race contention or anything. It's just for that 6th position at the moment. And that has been in for... I'm Welsh, supposing you are talking about that. Yes, he has had the hards on, but he came back in for mediums after his accident with Halbstag. Evening to Max Kempenard. And yeah, I'm sure Maarten, he really has to stamp upon the pedal, but 10th place, not out. But I think he's been running his tires for a long time by now, and I think the lap times reflect that with a 57.9. Let's just see what he's running. Hard tires that are getting well worn by now indeed for Maarten Pfeiffersen. Oh, Stevie, I think Well, that's a good question. Well, we'll have to check out. Anyway, it's a 20-second penalty for not putting on the mediums under the race, isn't it? And he's 32 seconds ahead of JoeOfTheFire, so let's have a look once we get the race over with. Otherwise, you could write him a message in chat, Welsh, to make sure he knows that he's supposed to use both compounds. It would be a shame to have to take away such a dominant performance. We might be saving Stevie here. Let's get back to the duel between Maarten and the Radish himself. Maarten getting very close. They might be jinxing it now. Complete. Oh, off apple has gone off. Off apple is off. In the exit of turn 5. Oh, poor luck for Apple indeed. And just as I was mentioning that I was probably jinxing it for Maarten, I was doing it for Apple actually. And yeah. So now he's off the track. It did happen at some point, Mikey. We were waiting for it. JoeOfTheFire still on that island in second position. He's like Tom Hanks with a big beard and a friend that's a piece of lumber. Or is it a piece of lumber, or is it a coconut or a football? That's actually embarrassing that I don't remember. Somebody will probably know. I might be confusing it with the cartoon where somebody one of the boys has a friend that's just this piece of wood. Anyway, Digby has done a strong job to get himself back into third position. He's been, as I mentioned earlier, he's really been flying under the radar today. And here is Stevie pitting in for the Hearts, so I don't think he had been using him so far. But in the end, it seems to matter all the less, because no doubt he's going to exit the pits in front of JoeOfTheFire. And no doubt he's going to have a clear advantage still. I mean, look at that gap. It's a big one indeed. And JoeOfTheFire, perhaps, I think he's going to aim for a fastest lap, knowing that he also has the gap in turn down to Sam Digby. Let's see, I think it's just going to be Tyres, and then that's it. Correct call. For once. And that is JoeOfTheFire out on a fresh set of mediums. And it would allow him perhaps to improve on that 53.7, the best lap of Stevie so far. Stevie, what a performance indeed from him. And Stevie had to pit because the drivers have to use both compounds of tires in these races. And he had only been on the mediums so far, so to avoid any post-race penalties, he came in for the hards. I think both the organizers and myself were perhaps a little lenient on the drivers in that sense. But it's not the first time we've instructed drivers to make sure to use both of the compounds. Anyways. Oh god, no, Joe, please don't bin it. It's only just about 6 seconds in front of Sam Digby, but I have to say that JoeOfTheFire usually is very consistent indeed. So, but it is a risk indeed, but there's also a point at stake. And given that this race will mark the halfway done with this season, the first month done of the TSR GT300 Series. Well, in turn, it means that JoeOfTheFire will be in with a good shot at the championship, even if Stevie goes to... of course, if Stevie goes on to win all the other rounds. I haven't done any sort of math, so... and yeah, they can use more than one... they can use as many sets of the different tires as they want. So there is no regulations on that, as there are in the IGTL. But that's definitely one kind of tire rule that we should think about implementing for the future. Thing is that with about 1 hour of racing, plus minus a little bit, and then in turn also tire and fuel at 1 with the multiplier, that does make it... I mean, you can get through. We've seen Shomar, he went from lap 1 to lap, well, 2 or 3 laps before the line on 1 set of mediums, which was absolutely insane. He did that at Suzuka when he won for the 10X AMG Mercedes team. We're watching the Mad Greek CJ, he's in 4th position. Halbstag is 5th. It's VRS Stick in 6th. Having gotten a gap at least now to T5 Black in 7th. Still DirtenDK in 8th position, 5 seconds down, and still closing that gap. But I think it's just gonna be a bit too much to ask of DirtenDK to actually close those now 4.7 seconds up to DirtenDK in the space of 1.5 lap. So ERT Stevie on his final lap. He is most certainly gonna take this one. A win in his debut race in the TSR GT300 Series. Certainly showing that he is as fast as ever. And if he's let into that stride, he is such a hard gentleman to beat. And indeed, Alex, it has seemed to be the best way to go, to just try and go as long as possible on the mediums. And as we've seen today, actually, it does seem to perhaps even have been faster for Stevie to actually have having done 2 stints on the mediums, and then a very short one on the hards at the end. Of course, if you like our content here on Half the Race Gone, just saying that before the race ends, but if you do like our content here, don't hold back, do smash the like button, and of course do also subscribe to the channel to be sure to stay updated on all things Half the Race Gone. But it's gonna be a victory for ERT Stevie, for the Iris Racing Team. He takes the checkered flag with a big advantage of around half a minute down to JoeOfTheFire. This is gonna be his last attempt for fastest lap. And I think he's really gotta throw it around to be able to make that 10 seconds now. I'm not really sure how it looks, how long time it takes, and I'm not sure he's gonna make it. 51, 52, 53, oh, it's gonna be pretty close, but it's not. It's half a second off for JoeOfTheFire, who takes 2nd position, so a strong performance. And the Brits are indeed showing everyone else how it's done here today with a 1, 2, 3, rounded off by Sam Digby. CJ smashing his car. Really hates that Renault, doesn't he? Smashed it into the wall after finishing 4th. Halbstag, strong stuff, manages to finish 5th in the Lambo. It's VRS Stick in 6th position, coming home for the shared car of himself and GT Welsh, the organizer's car. It's T5 Black for 7th, and DirtenDK coming home for 8th position in the 10X AMG Mercedes. Here is Dr. Hash in the McLaren. He's gonna come home for 9th. Apple is gonna come home for 10th position. And what happened to Maarten? Oh, Maarten got engine damage, I think, on one of the last laps, so it wasn't to be. Maarten has already ended his race. He's in 11th position. So final of the cars on track is off Apple once more with a big drift in the final corner. Show-offing indeed. Doesn't pull off his 10 style points once more as he did on Fuji. But the last of the drivers to finish indeed. Here is the results, and a very big congratulations to ERT Stevie, today's winner, today's pole sitter. Absolutely brilliant performance. What else to be said? Also, of course, the witty professor Joe of the Fire in second, Sam Digby third, CJ fourth, Halbstag in fifth. So thanks everyone for joining in for today's race, or this evening's race. I hope you all have enjoyed it. I certainly have. It's been a lot of fun. Once more, some great racing on display, even though a little bit more spread. First time really we've seen that this season. That's not actually true, because it was the same way the first race, if I remember, though there were a little bit more battling for those positions around the top of the race. It seemed to stretch out somewhat quickly when that battle for second, third, fourth was over. But anyways, we did have some great action anyway along the way. Of course, we'll be back here on the channel tomorrow, and that'll be for the aforementioned AOR Project Cars 2 race from Monza, the GT3 race, which will be starting in the rain, and it'll be difficult to say the least, I think. But yeah, tune in tomorrow at 8:30 Central European Time. Thanks to Understeer and Alex for the nice comments. Shasa as well. And half-past 8, half-past. Good night, Ethan. I think it's bedtime for you. Of course, we'll be also joining you. Yeah, we'll also be joining you Thursday, is what I meant to say, for episode 3 of Dirten Rally, which is, if it's gonna be as much fun as the first 2 episodes, it is gonna be a lot of fun indeed. So, and of course, next week, Tuesday, 9:30 Central European Time, it will be the 5th round of the TSR GT300 Championships. Do also join us for that. So, with that said, I think all there is left to say from me is, of course, that it isn't too long since I mentioned it, but do like and subscribe. And with that said, from myself, DirtenDK, you've been watching Have the Race Gone, and until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.